talk about something that clearly one of the things that has been exposed after the assassination of Charlie Kirk is a desire by the right to use this shooting as a way to go after the transgender community and also the LGBTQ community as a whole, too. And joining me right now, Ellie Krug is the host of The Illegal Trans Woman, a show that we have here on our mothership station, AM 950. And of course, you can podcast it, available wherever you get your podcasts. And Ellie wanted to chime in today. Not only that, but first of all, you actually reached out to me because kind of in conjunction with this whole assassination of Charlie Kirk, there are some incredibly unbelievable things, horrific things being said by people on the right about the transgender community. And obviously your alarms went off and you're like, okay, what's going on here?
Yeah, well, Matt, thanks for having me on. I mean, I wanted to talk about, you had me on after the Annunciation shooting,
Yes.
Okay, where there was the shooter in that case was somebody who had transitioned genders. And I told you at that time I was worried about what the reaction would be by MAGA and by the Trump administration. And the day after that shooting, a Wired reporter asked Carolyn Levitt at the White House whether the Trump administration was considering institutionalizing, rounding up transgender people. And her answer back, rather than say, what a stupid question, was, I'll have to get back to you on that. Okay. So now we have this shooting with Charlie Kirk's murder, MAGA attempting to go to all lengths to make a strong transgender connection to this. There's, of course, the words that Tyler Robinson had a roommate and a love interest who was transitioning from male to female. And of course, at first we had the shooting, and then the bullets, and there's reportedly there were transgender sayings and markings and all that kind of stuff, which the Wall Street Journal reported right away, which later on was diffused and said was not correct. It's all about some kind of a game.
With ties to the Groyper movement. And I've talked about this extensively on this show, that if I can't say what the motivations of the shooter are, but there's enough connections to the Groyper movement and by far the most connections to the Groyper movement. And it seems that the only connection there is to anything on the left is that there is a roommate / potential love interest who may or may not have been transitioning, which is not the shooter. And as I've said multiple times, that would be like saying if the roommate or the potential love interest was a redhead, that redheads were responsible for this. That has nothing to do with it, but it clearly became the narrative right out the gate for the right.
Well, it is the current narrative right now, because the narrative apparently is that you just associating with somebody who is transgender can in some way make you violent, some way that the quote unquote ideology is contagious in some way. And, what brought me here to talk with you is that we've got not one now, we have 2 elected representatives in the House of Representatives calling for transgender people to be rounded up and institutionalized in mass. Nancy Mace is one of them. She's been a transphobe ever since, Sarah McBride got elected, and she was bashing Sarah McBride even before, who is the very first transgender House of Representative member in history. She was bashing Sarah McBride even before Sarah McBride was sworn in. But I'm more concerned because on Tuesday of this week, Ronnie Jackson, you remember Ronnie Jackson used to be the White House physician.
Yeah, Trump's in the first term. Yeah,
in the first term. Okay, who the Biden administration found out all kinds of things that Jackson was doing, demoted him from admiral down to captain. Last week or 2 weeks ago, Trump remoted him. If that's probably not even a word, but made him back to rear admiral. But Ronnie Jackson went on an interview on a podcast called Finnerty and said that transgender people all need, that they need treatment, that they need to be rounded up, that they need to be treated and institutionalized. And this is horrible, because Ronnie Jackson, of all people, has Trump's ear.
Oh yeah. Well, and in kind of, there's a lot to unpack here in that it is. I want to talk a little bit about Nancy Mace. Nancy Mace actually is a representative where my mom lives down in South Carolina. When she initially ran, this was nowhere on her bingo card. This was this whole transgender hate thing, and a lot of people feel as if once Roe v. Wade was overturned and they realized that now abortion was kind of a toxic issue for them, that's when she dove in deep into the hate of the transgender community, and it has become her. She feels as if apparently this is her issue and this is her cause. Now it is also proven to be, she's an idiot. I mean, she's multiple times called police on biological women in restrooms claiming they were transgender women, and then of course ran away when she realized she was wrong. But she's just this is about hate. They have looked around, it reminiscent of the 1930s in Germany, folks.
Absolutely.
They've looked around and they said, who can we just start applying a label to on anything and going after? And the transgender community clearly is the one that they're focused on.
We are. And they're focusing on us in a way that, I mean, what scares me most, Matt, is that what Ronnie Jackson said, what Mace said about institutionalizing transgender, it didn't even make its way halfway up the news feed. And it scares me to death. Okay, that this is going on. They're doing all this planning. There's going to be an executive order. They're going to come after trans, and nobody is even going to know about it. And that if you don't know about it, how can you care about it?
It is in the same light of when they were sitting there saying all assassins are left leaning, and someone said Vance Belter, and the assassination of Melissa Hortman and her husband, and the shooting of the Hoffmans, and they all looks like who, like they have no idea. They just had Kash Patel at the meeting with the Dylan Roof shooting, where he went into the shoot up the church in Charleston, South Carolina. He had no idea who Dylan Roof was, the right wing racist who killed a bunch of people in
neo-Nazi.
They have no idea who they are, because once again, those shootings don't fit their narrative, so they completely ignore them. But one that they can try to turn this into something a weapon of hate, and that's clearly what's going on here. And I'll just say this, and I'll get into this a lot more this hour. It's clear, once again, Tyler Robinson, if I was to say I'm doing an investigation, the main points, the connections I am seeing most of all seem to point to the Groyper movement. And we talked a little bit about, there was was it Verge put out a full breakdown of how this is there. The Groyper movement is not only Nick Fuentes, but it's Laura Loomer. And you talk about people that have Trump's ear. Laura Loomer definitely has Trump's ear. And it almost feels as if a lot of what we're hearing right now is an attempt to cover up. And I'll talk about the Laura Loomer herself going after Kirk earlier this year before she deleted that tweet, that she basically is we have to present this as it can't be there. We'll just claim the roommate. And because there is some question of whether or not this roommate is actually transitioning at all. I'll get into that a little bit later on, but they made a narrative, villain transgender people, boom, go after them.
That's right. And nobody is pushing back. I mean, you got Ellie Krug on the illegal trans woman in small AM 950 in Minnesota. But I mean, there are no national voices pushing back on any of this. And this is why transgender people feel that they're left out in the cold, man.
Well, and if I can say, I mean, it's not only that. I mean, should we? Today's one of these days where I ask the question: should I just quit now, or because eventually when they come after me, which they will, because once again this starts snowballing, rolling downhill. Yeah. Should I just quit now, go into the private sector and go into anonymity and be done with it, or is anybody especially on the freaking left, going to do something about this outside of get your stern wagging finger out? I mean, this is the craziness of this whole thing, is that these are not, I mean, it's the Kimmel stuff is going to get more attention because of the freedom of the press and the visibility of this, but all of these freedoms are being taken away. And the freedoms of transgender people, they're human beings, for God's sakes, and yet we are not doing anything as their rights are being trampled on exclusively.
You have elected representatives calling for transgender people to be rounded up and put into institutions, detention camps. It is Nazi Germany, 1938, 39. It's absolutely where we're at right now. But I will tell you this, Matt, You and I both need to stand tall. We both need to be here to be the voices. Yeah, maybe they're going to come and take the mics from our cold, dead hands. Okay. All right. But until that happens, you and I need to, and everybody else here at AM 950, we need to continue to be the progressive voice that this station is.
It is just disheartening beyond disheartening to see this level of hatred and the control that they now have over this on the national media. I think 20 years ago, a lot of people would be talking about Ronnie Jackson or Nancy Mace in a much more fair and even balanced thing. But these news media outlets are far more concerned about executive salaries, holiday bonuses, and stock options, that they don't care about the freedom of the press or even just presenting an even keel view. They just want the least amount of ripples hitting their boat. And so this, there definitely is an absolute lack of anybody really wanting to talk about human rights being taken away. And once again, obviously the main story today I'm going to talk about is Kimmel, but it shouldn't take somebody just of Jimmy Kimmel watching other people's rights getting taken away for people just to be as outraged.
It's a direct line.
It was a direct line. Of course, your podcast coming up, the brand new one that's you just recorded this before my show. I imagine you're going to be touching on this a lot more as well.
Absolutely.
And that's going to be posted here fairly soon. Once again, I want to encourage you, if you haven't heard it, The Illegal Trans Woman with Ellie Krug, available here on the mothership station at AM 950 on the weekends, 4 p.m. on Saturdays, if I remember correctly. Yep. And then, of course, just podcast it. It's everywhere you can find the podcast, because that's still out there. And the more you educate yourself, the better we all are going to be, because don't expect the rest of the world to freaking educate us at this point. Ellie, thank you very much. We'll take a break. Come on back. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Thanks, Matt.
Step into a world where magic and merriment come alive. Discover fantastical creatures, behold thrilling jousts, and meet your favorite characters of old. From rib-tickling gestures to spellbinding performances, the adventure never ends. Make memories that will last through the ages at the most magical village on earth, the Minnesota Renaissance Festival. Plan your visit today at renaissancefest.com. Huzzah!
The Brave New Workshop is a Minneapolis tradition and the nation's longest-running comedy theater, finding ways to make people laugh about things that should make them cry for over 65 years. And who doesn't need a good laugh right now? Seriously, who doesn't need a laugh? Come see their fall show, Hippocalypse Now, a hilarious look at a world where what people say and what people do are completely unrelated. Playing now through November 1st at the Dudley Riggs Theater in Minneapolis. Tickets available at hennepinarts.org. That's hennepinarts.org.
Twin Cities Con returns to the Minneapolis Convention Center for their 5th year, November 7th through the 9th. Twin Cities Con is a celebration of comics, toys, TV, film, art, cosplay, games, and all things nerdy. There's nothing like Twin Cities Con. It's also a family-friendly event where you can meet your favorite celebrities, browse the vendor hall and artist alley for the coolest merch, watch celebrity Q&As, and even more. Twin Cities Con is bigger and better than before. Come see from the Star Wars universe Ahmad Best, Rosario Dawson, and Giancarlo Esposito, Brendan Fraser, and the cast of The Mummy, WWE Wrestling Hall of Famers Sting and Mick Foley, and the voice actors from the hit Disney series Phineas and Ferb, plus more guests to be announced. 3 days of action-packed fun in the heart of Minneapolis at the Minneapolis Convention Center. Tickets start at $50. Kids tickets are just $10 for the entire weekend. VIP tickets also available, including a 3-day weekend pass, plus some really cool VIP perks. More guests will be announced. Buy your tickets and get more information at TwinCitiesCon.com.
Hi, this is Frank Brown of Minuteman Press Uptown with a question for our listeners. How important are business values to you? When you need high-quality digital print, it matters who you work with. You see, Minuteman Uptown is unique. We're one of the only union print shops in Minnesota providing our team with living wages and benefits. We believe in second chances for justice-impacted individuals who want to contribute to the community, and we are active in local issues. We've been in the streets standing up for racial, social, and economic justice. At Minuteman Uptown, our mission is to connect all communities through technology-driven print solutions. An example of that mission is when I moved Minuteman Uptown to North Minneapolis. We're invested in this local community, and we help small businesses and local organizations throughout the Twin Cities reach their audiences. Reach out to Minuteman Uptown and partner with a printer that shares your values. Call us today at 612-870-0000 0777 or visit us at mpuptown.com. That's mpuptown.com.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. I want to take some time here, if I can, to do a little history lesson here about the burning of the Reichstag and what happened there. It was early on, 4 weeks after Hitler was sworn in as the Chancellor of Germany. The Nazis were trying to basically solidify power. Now, I want to make I know some people will say, the Nazis burned down the Reichstag. Okay, the Nazis did it themselves. The Nazis did. There was one story I read about the culprits, the bad guys in this case, were picked up by the Nazis, driven to the Reichstag as it was burning. 3 of them were apparently so drunk they could barely stand. And they were saying communist. They said they're communists, and they got the communists, and they blamed them for that. The Nazis burned down the Reichstag because it allowed them to basically push their agenda. The day after the fire, at Hitler's request, the president at that time of Germany signed the Reichstag fire decree into law by using Article 48 of the Weimar Constitution. It suspended most civil liberties in Germany, including habeas corpus, freedom of expression, freedom of the press, and right of the free association and public assembly, and the secrecy of the post and telephone, aka they could start looking at your mail and listening on your phone calls. These rights were not reinstated and turned the entire Nazi reign. It gave them the power to control message. That's what they were doing, is they didn't want other people talking about the truth. They did not want other people challenging them on reality. That's the burning of the Reichstag. That was, and they very specifically went out and shut down any newspaper that did not report the news as they dictated it. It was basically a litmus test. Back then, if the news networks were around back then, so far ABC and CBS would have gladly gone around with the Reichstag talking points and not say, hey, who are we to question, huh? Because that's where we're at right now. This is a Reichstag moment. That's what this is. This is a Reichstag moment. The whole thing with Jimmy Kimmel. This is a Reichstag moment. This is, and I said this on the Wednesday before I went to Chicago. I said, you are going to see a lot of people get angry because you are presenting something that is against the narrative they want you to say. That this is going to be one of the greatest mind control discussions we're going to have. Now, once again, I'm going to be very clear here. First of all, I didn't agree with Charlie Kirk. He said a lot of horrible things, but nobody, and I repeat, nobody deserves to go out like this. Once again, banning assault weapons immediately would be a great idea. I don't care who the victim is. Nobody deserves to be shot like that. Period. Charlie Kirk should not be dead right now. And if we had common sense gun regulations in this country, there's a decent chance he would not be. Now, that being said, and this is very bare bones, but this was a meme that was going around after, I think it was like on Friday, I started noticing people putting out this meme. That was basically, so a Republican was shot by another person who was a Republican in a Republican state at a college that leans Republican, and the Democrats are somehow responsible. That was the narrative. I have spent the last 5 days, that Wednesday of the shooting, and then of course this is my 4th day back after the Chicago trip, talking about the fact that if I was an investigator into a crime, if I was investigating this crime, far more points of evidence as they've been described point to the Groyper movement. And once again, the Groyper movement is this far-right group, are hardcore, unrepentant racists. This is according to the Verve story. They hate everyone. They hate everyone openly and without reservation. They also kind of border on the incels. They're decentralized and diffuse, but it's Nick Fuentes has been a point person for them. He speaks to a lot of them. Fuentes did not like Kirk. For instance, he thought Kirk was too soft on Israel, which is to say he wasn't anti-Semitic enough. Fuentes used to be on Team Trump and parted ways for reasons, but for some reasons. But anyway, he thought Kirk was a sycophant. Kirk backed off from demanding Trump release the Epstein files. Meanwhile, Fuentes raged against him, calling for his party to be hanged at the midterms. That's an exact quote. And I've said that there are, and I'm repeating this because there's a tendency for people to not want to find out the truth. Because I'm going to give you a great example of this. Jim Gaffigan posted this morning, stop listening to what people are telling you Jimmy Kimmel said and actually go listen to what Jimmy Kimmel said. Because even Jim Gaffigan, notoriously non-political, is basically saying a lot of people are going after Jimmy Kimmel and punishing him for something he really did not say. This is the Reichstag moment. Not only is MAGA upset and angry because people are pointing out that according to the 4 bullets that were inscribed, notices, bulges, OWO, what's this? If you read this, you are gay, LMAO, oh, Bella, Chabello, Chaballo, chow, 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 and fascist, catch up, arrow, up arrow, right arrow, down arrows. Those are, once again, as this article explains, Cox took the "Hey Fascist" catch out of its video game context because he basically wanted to kind of look, it's Antifa. Well, no, that's not. At first, it's probably because he's not aware, but second, it's because it doesn't fit his narrative. If you put "Hey Fascist" catch and other inscriptions in their proper context of extremely online culture, a different picture emerges, one where the right is so focused on alleged enemies, they're missing what's happening in their own. And, basically goes on to explain the connection to the video game that kind of pushed this idea. And yeah, there's a lot of things that point to this shooter, Tyler Robinson, being of the far right ilk of the Groyper ilk. Far more points than anything else, which is once again why it's incredibly bizarre and incredibly hard to sit here and hear this constant, the left did this, outside of you saying, hey, fascist, catch this, which is trying to tie that to Antifa when it's actually attached to a video game directly. And also this whole thing with the transitioning gender of a roommate, possible lover. There's nothing else there I can see that ties this guy to the left. I'm going to get into this more the rest of this show. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
This is Alex Knorr from Buzz Cut Mowing, a young, hardworking entrepreneur serving the Southwest Metro with affordable lawn care. I take the hard work off your plate with weekly mowing. I also offer leaf cleanups, aeration, dethatching, tree trimming, and mulch installation. I'll keep your lawn beautiful so you can enjoy your weekends with the people who matter most. Visit buzzcutmowingmn.com. That's buzzcutmowingmn.com.
Your need-to-know news headquarters, the Thom Hartmann Program, AM 950, KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
Get ready for the music event of the season. Powderhorn Porch Fest returns Saturday, September 20th, 4 to 10 p.m. for another legendary evening of 13 epic performances across 3 uniquely Powderhorn Porch stages featuring genres from hip-hop, R&B, surf punk, Latin folk, and more. Powderhorn Porch Fest spans 2 blocks on 17th Avenue South between 32nd and 34th Street. KRSM will be spinning beats with the diverse sounds of the South Side all night long. Treat yourself to Minneapolis' favorite food trucks, then grab a refreshing cold drink at the Beer Garden. The festival's family-friendly by day with activities for kids and an unforgettable celebration for adults after dark. Best of all, Powderhorn Porch Fest is free to attend with proceeds supporting the community programs of Powderhorn Park Neighborhood Association. Don't miss out on this one-of-a-kind music and community celebration. Powderhorn Porch Fest, September 20th, 4 to 10 p.m. Details at ppna.org/porchfest.
AM 950 KTN up, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul.
Adventure is calling. Set sail with Treasure Island and Children's Theatre Company, where danger, discovery, and daring sword fights await. Follow young Jim Hawkins on a journey filled with mysterious maps, buried treasure, and the unforgettable Long John Silver. A legendary story brought to life with stunning visuals, live music, and heart-pounding action. Don't miss Treasure Island, September 9th through October 19th. Tickets at childrenstheatre.org.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. We have families waiting for a car. You know, over 85% of unemployed are successful in finding and keeping a job if they have dependable transportation. A car plus a job equals a life changed. 612-919-5526. We have families waiting for a car. 919-5526 or autotech.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly sunny skies today with a high near 80, tonight showers and storms with a low near 65, and Friday more rain with a high around 71. Unleash your cravings at Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Dive into a world of flavor with their signature Philly steak, tantalizing turkey bacon avocado, and an array of mouth-watering options like crispy chicken and fish. Pair it perfectly with freshly fried fries or golden onion rings. Unforgettable sandwiches. That's Maverick's Real Roast Beef in Roseville.
Broadcasting in the late night hours in Seattle, 1150 AM, KKNW, 1150 AM. There you go. Chicago, love you, Chicago. WCPT 820 Chicago's Progressive Talk. And, of course, in Minneapolis, St. Paul on AM 950, the Progressive Voice of Minnesota. It's the Matt McNeil Show. So let's go back to what exactly Kimmel said. During one of his evening monologues, which was recorded before Utah prosecutors released more information about the alleged killer, Tyler Robinson, Kimmel suggested Trump's political movement, MAGA, wanted to exploit the situation. The MAGA gang is, quote, the MAGA gang is desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. Well, right now, the evidence that we've seen kind of points to him being of the right-wing ilk. And there were definitely a lot of people that used Charlie Kirk's to push their personal agendas over those first few days. That's for sure. I mean, we just had Ellie Krug in here talking about people that want to use this to go after transgender people. So, yes. It was not clear if Kimmel was suggesting Robinson was a literal supporter of MAGA. I have said I don't think he's MAGA. I think he's part of the Groyper movement. Or let's put it this way. The evidence that we have seen so far seems to point pretty strongly towards the Groyper movement, which is further right than MAGA. So I'm not saying he's necessarily MAGA or, he grew up in a Republican family for sure. That's a known. But it's not clear if Kimmel was suggesting Robinson was a literal supporter of MAGA or that his alleged political violence was part of a broader shift towards bloodshed and forces of U.S. politics, particularly according to the far right. Still, this comment appears to be deeply angered Trump supporters and officials. Robinson's motive has not been confirmed, although the top prosecutor in Utah County, where Kirk was fatally shot in September, said the suspect, whose family is known to be conservative, had become more political. Okay, that doesn't mean anything. Could mean he's become more right-wing political. Started to learn more started to lean more to the left, becoming more pro-gay and more pro-trans rights oriented. Okay. I'm going to get back to that because I don't know how much of that is necessarily true. I'm not saying it's not true, but you'll see where I'm going. I'll get to that here in a second. In an interview on Wednesday, the Trump-appointed head of the U.S. media regulator, the Federal Communications Commissioner, Brendan Carr, hack, said Kimmel had a concerted effort to try to lie to the American people. Carr went on to call Kimmel's comments an attempt to play it into a narrative that was somehow MAGA or MAGA-motivated, a Republican-motivated person. Kimmel has also marked Trump for specific comments he made in response for being asked by a reporter how he was personally holding up after the assassination of Kirk, who he said was a friend. Trump had replied saying that he was very good, then immediately started boasting about his new ballroom he is building in the White House. Kimmel said after the clip, "This is now how an adult grieves the murder of somebody called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish." Kimmel referenced an incident in which Australian journalist was berated by Trump after he asked the U.S. president this week how much wealthier he had become since returning to office, the Oval Office. Trump accused the reporter John Lyons, who was reporting for Four Corners, of hurting Australia with the line of questioning and said he would raise the issue with the Australian prime minister. Kimmel showed the clip in the exchange and mocked Trump for being a little tattletale. He added, "Trump needs to make a decision. Do you want to be a dictator or just, well, you can figure out where their ass that was going. There you go." Now, none of this warrants the attack that was laid upon him. This is, and it should be noted, what had happened is two of the groups of people that own ABC affiliates, Sinclair, and I can't remember, I have the other one here.
Oh, Nexstar?
Nexstar, thank you very much. Nexstar and Sinclair. And I think Nexstar owns about 10% of the ABC affiliates. They basically said, "How dare he?" And I got something about Sinclair. Sinclair kind of gives up the ghost a little bit in regards to one of their demands from Kimmel to allow them back on their stations. But let's be known, those two media outlets are extreme far right-wing radio outlets or media outlets, and they have Nexstar has this potential merger out there, which whether or not the SEC chair, I don't know. I do not know. But did the SEC chair, like with the case with the CBS merger, kind of point out, hey, you need ours to sign off on this? And since the ABC is not looking to merge with anybody, are they going after ABC's affiliates to try to get ABC to fire Kimmel? And once again, a person who has been a longstanding critic of Trump. And once again, I want to make sure we're very clear. This is just an assault on freedom of speech. Last week, Brian Kilmeade over on Fox News said homeless people should be randomly assassinated by lethal injection, was it? Some sort of just, if you find a homeless person, inject them with a lethal dose and be done with it. I guess like Monty Python, have the cart come rolling by and I'm not dead yet, that sort of thing. But nobody, and that's what he said. He said we should just start killing the homeless. He said this. And at no point did anybody say, well, Fox News, the Fox television network should be held accountable, and their network affiliates should be held accountable for carrying a product which encourages that kind of narrative. Now, Kilmeade has apologized for his insane comment. But at no point is the FCC, because this is not about what is right or wrong. This is the Reichstag moment. This is, no, we want you to present this in the way we want you to present this. And if you do not do that, we will make sure that we silence your voice. Kimmel didn't say anything out of line. Kimmel didn't say anything that wasn't, basically debatable as far as factual truth at the time that he said it. This is about silencing the critics. I want to get back to why I've got some real questions about in regards to the right-wing narrative. Snopes basically did a deep dive into the whole roommate / lover transitioning gender story. I'm going to read from this. They did this yesterday. As of this writing, there is no evidence to connect Robinson's alleged relationship with his politics or Kirk's assassination. The shooting's motive will be at the center of the court proceedings. He made his first court appearance on September 16th. His next one is September 29th. While the indictment Utah prosecutors brought against Robinson provided evidence of a romantic relationship between Robinson and his alleged partner and evidence that the person identified was trans, there are still many unanswered questions about that alleged connection. Now, I want to stop right there. Los Angeles, they had a whole bunch of people try to prosecute protesters, saying the protesters were violently attacking ICE agents. Then they got into the courtroom. So the indictments they were writing, that the indictments the Department of Justice was putting forward, said protesters are attacking ICE agents. And then we saw the video. And when the judge basically said, I want this one agent who keeps swearing that these people are attacking them in the courtroom, I want to question them. That's when the Department of Justice dropped all the charges against all these people because they just didn't want to have to get that person up there to justify, hey, here's video of you saying this happened and you're lying, because that's not what happened. So I don't care what necessarily this indictment says. We need to go to trial to find out what really they do have. Because once again, what does that have to do with anything with the shooter? When was the last time? I mean, do you know anything about the roommate of the Annunciation shooter? Do you know anything about how about the kid that shot at Trump at that rally? How much do you know about their relationship status with other people? I find it somewhat interesting that this has been this accusation comes out in the indictment, which, by the way, if they are transitioning gender, that's irrelevant too. But I actually have some questions on whether or not that's legit, if this is a story we're being told. Because I find it interesting they've said this, and now they've asked everyone involved in the case to not talk to the press. So they're putting out a narrative, and the press is not basically being allowed to go and ask these people what's really going on. It is true that alongside unverified testimony from anonymous FBI sources, the charges brought against Robinson indicate he referred to his alleged partner as his love and my love over text exchange. Once again, irrelevant to the shooting of Charlie Kirk, suggesting they were in a romantic relationship. Once again, irrelevant to the shooting of Charlie Kirk. Also, according to court documents, Robinson's mother said he was dating his roommate who is transitioning genders. Now, reminder, this is what this report says. The mother has not come on out and had a press conference where she said, my son has done this. This is the same police report saying, oh, the mom told us this. Mind you, do you know what this police report doesn't include? Grandma saying every member of that family was a far-right Republican, which she did. Grandma said that. She said, oh, nobody in our family is a Democrat. We're all Republicans. That's not in here. But this alleged statement from the mom is. Robinson's alleged partner has cooperated with investigators, providing authorities access to their alleged text conversations with Robinson, the court records show. However, the alleged partner has not come forward publicly or confirmed a gender identity. In other words, the only information about the alleged gender identity is from secondhand sources. And it directly contradicts grandma saying their whole family was right-wing. Even if it's true, it's irrelevant to the shooting. It's like saying the roommate had red hair, so all redheads are responsible for the shooting of Charlie Kirk. No, that's has nothing to do with it. But this seems to be the entire source of he was a lefty. There have been an insane amount of fake memes and photos and stuff. There's one guy, Apparently, he was wearing a Democratic Socialist. He didn't even look like Robinson. And they said, here he is, Democratic Socialist T-shirt. One guy had a picture of the guy wearing an Antifa T-shirt. Clearly wasn't the same guy. There is a undeniable element to sell a very specific narrative from the right about what happened in this shooting. A narrative which contradicts the other evidence, which is pretty clean, that points to it being the Groyper movement. And I also will mention Laura Loomer. I don't want to ever hear Charlie Kirk claim he's pro-Trump ever again. After this weekend, I'd say he has revealed himself as political opportunist, and I have had a front row seat to witness the mental gymnastics these last 10 years. Lately, Charlie's decided to behave like a charlatan, claiming to be pro-Trump one day, and he stabs Trump in the back the next. That's Turning Point USA was only able to thrive thanks to the generosity of Trump. On the one-year anniversary of the assassination attempt on Trump's life, Charlie hosted a comic at Turning Point conference where Dave Smith was able to speak to a bunch of conservative youth in an organization that claims to be pro-Trump. I have no idea what it is, but needless to say, it's a Laura Loomer tweet from this earlier this year where she was attacking Charlie Kirk. You have that. You have the messages on the bullets. You have the family saying they've been right wing. You have pictures of the kid holding guns basically ever since he could walk. And you basically, all I'm pointing out is this. You have to want to go after Kimmel and really completely and totally reinvent what he said to basically try to justify what you have done here. And you also have to ignore the fact that this is still very clearly up for debate. More on this when we come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show.
Located just north of 50th in France, the Great Wall Restaurant has provided a delicious taste of authentic Chinese cuisine since 1981. Specializing in Szechuan and Peking dishes, they offer one of the most extensive menus in the Twin Cities. Favorites include hot and sour soup, pan-fried dumplings, and mushu pork with homemade Chinese pancakes. Stop by their Edina location or call for takeout at 952-927-4439. See the full menu at greatwallrestaurant.us.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067 or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
Hi, I'm Corey Wisco, president of the Welshire. The Welshire excels as a memory care community in the Twin Cities, located in Bloomington, and we have a new location in Medina. But what makes Welshire so different is the people that we have working for us. Our team has been together for the past 25 years providing this type of care. We employ some of the most amazing nurses and LPNs that are in the building 24 hours a day. We also have an activity team that is over 40 people. And our scheduling begins at 9 o'clock in the morning for activities, and it goes to 7, 8 o'clock at night. And that's 7 days a week. You won't find that. That is why many of the families that come to Welshire are actually coming from another memory care facility. Not all memory care is created equally. And that's why I encourage you, if you've had issues and problems at other places, come see what makes us so special. Please visit thewelshiremn.com and book a tour.
Hi, I'm Peter Solak.
And I'm Adam Ostrowski.
We are here at Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces to talk about outdoor fires. Sitting around a fire is the oldest, most basic form of human activity.
What's new is in the way fire is burned. We can show you how to burn cleaner with a lot less smoke.
The radiant heat and light from an open fire is unmatched. It kindles our spirits and connects us to the outdoors. And now it's easier to experience and enjoy.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces sells and installs wood and gas burning fire pits and fireplaces. Let us help you experience an outdoor fire without all the smoke.
Come see the many ways you can enjoy a fire outdoors.
Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces has over 35 working wood and gas units on display at the corner of East Franklin and Riverside Avenue in Minneapolis. More information at woodlandstoves.com. Find the fire that works for you. Woodland Stoves and Fireplaces. Out of the ordinary products and services since 1977.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. I give the Onion the headline. Okay, if you really want to know what this is about, getting Epstein off the front page, because the Onion has it. Trump spends entire UK trip trying to figure out where he knows Prince Andrew from. And, wow, that's the Onion. Expect them to be shut down by the end of the day. Yeah. Epstein. Yesterday, by the way, Kash Patel, basically, the way that he insisted on not speaking about the Epstein files and Trump's name in it clearly showed Trump's not only in there, he's in there a ton. And that was basically an admission from Kash Patel. Now, let's get back to this. Because once again, Kimmel doesn't deserve this. He doesn't deserve this. They basically, Daily Beast reported Cameron James, America's largest ABC affiliate group, Sinclair, is now saying that Kimmel must make a meaningful personal donation to Kirk's family. Media giant Sinclair wants the comedian to issue a direct apology to Kirk's family, claiming his suspension is not enough. He didn't. Okay. James reports that the article published on September 18th, Kimmel has been suspended in the wave of MAGA anger. The Sinclair people want, who are, and once again, notoriously right-wing, they basically want him to do this, write this check. This kind of gives up the ghost. They don't want the check to cash. They want the check to frame and send a picture of Kimmel crying as he has to sign it so he can put the crying check in the picture of the crying check and put his tears on the check. Get him. That's what they want. I hope, personally, if I was ABC at this point, I'd just sort of say, the heck with you. We're not going to do that. And also affiliate rules with television stations. You may not know this. If you basically have a network that doesn't want to air the actual network's programming and another TV station in that market wants to air said programming in its place, they can legally do that. Most of them have that in the affiliate contracts. So we'll have to see. This is a Reichstag moment. No, it wasn't us burning down the Reichstag. It was these four guys, three of who can barely stand because they're so drunk. And we're nowhere near the Reichstag when it caught on fire. No, Kimmel really said something that was horrible, and he deserved to be taken off the air because it's fantasy. No, I've already gone through the evidence as it's presented so far points to it being the Groyper movement, which I'm not saying it is, but it kind of does look like that, especially that Bella Ciao, Chow Chow. That is a song on the Groyper playlist on Spotify, for goodness sakes. But yet, this is where we're at. And I will say that according to the appearance on CNBC by the FCC Commissioner Carr, that this is just the beginning. I asked earlier about Fallon and Seth Meyers, but the president's view is that they should also be taken off the air, shared by the FCC. I don't speak for the president. Our goal is to our obligation here to make sure that broadcasts are serving the public interest, and if there's a local TV station that don't think the running that programming does it, then they have every right under the law to their contracts to preempt it, and we'll see how this plays out. Basically, he's saying, yeah, we're going to go after the Tonight Show and Seth Meyers. I do think that, again, we are in the midst of a massive shift in dynamics in the media ecosystem, and lots of reasons, again, including the permission obstruction that Trump's election has provided. So basically, this is Carr admitting, yep, we're going to do this, and we have the right to do this because Trump was elected. CNBC anchor followed up, what does that mean when you say you're not done yet? Then, will you only be pleased when none of these comedians have a show on broadcast television? Carr replied, no, that it's not any particular show or any particular person. It's just we have the midst of a very disruptive movement right now, and I just frankly expect that we're going to continue to see changes in the media ecosystem. He's going after the Tonight Show, Fallon and Seth Meyers. Speaking in England on Thursday, Trump said Kimmel had a horrible thing about a great gentleman known as Charlie Kirk, and Kimmel is not a talented person. No, he talked about you guys. He didn't talk about Charlie Kirk. He had very bad ratings. They should have been fired a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not. He was fired for lack of talent. He has not been fired. Carr called Kimmel's comments truly sick and said there was a strong case for action against ABC and Disney. This is very, very serious issue right now for Disney. Once again, I've read the comments. I read what he said. You tell me that Carr is not playing this up to an extreme to try to make it seem like he said something incredibly horrible, which he did not say. And by the way, go back to Gaffigan. Go listen to what he said as opposed to what Carr is telling you what he said. Because I can tell you right now, if this ever got to a courtroom, Carr would be laughed out of it so damn fast. It's the case. But that's why they're doing it the way they're doing it. They're going after the TV station affiliates and saying the TV station affiliates have the ability to really force ABC to get rid of Kimmel. I mean, if the left had any freaking guts whatsoever, you'd be buying up billboards right next to every one of these TV stations that pulled him and putting out there direct quotes from Charlie Kirk over the years. Saying this TV station wants to honor a man that said this. And leave it up there and let them squirm. But I don't think we have anyone on the left that has the guts to do that. And I don't really have the bank account to do that. I mean, I don't. Hours after Carr's comments were reported by Johnson, Nexstar Media Group said its stations are affiliated with ABC would be preempt Kimmel's live for the foreseeable future. Nexstar is seeking regulatory approval from the FCC for a planned $6.2 billion merger with Tegna, which brings up my final point here. If you ever wanted to understand why corporate news media effing sucks, something that I have been talking about for, 30 years, it's this right here. They don't care about freedom of the speech. They sure as hell don't care about freedom of the press. All they care about is the executive salaries, the executive paychecks, the executive holiday pay, and their stock options. That's all they care about. And they will trample all over anyone else's rights to maintain those things uber alles. Like I said, this is our Reichstag moment. And the question is, are we going to believe what we're being told? Chicago, Seattle, talk to you tomorrow. Minneapolis, St. Paul, hour 2 up next.
Hey, it's Tom. There's a war being waged on clean energy. A bill in Congress could eliminate the 30% federal tax credit for solar by the end of 2025. And once it's gone, it may never come back. Fossil fuel giants and their MAGA friends in Washington want to kill green energy. But you can fight back. Going solar with All Energy Solar isn't just smart, it's a form of resistance. You choose where your money goes, not to utility companies, not to fossil fuel billionaires, but toward clean, renewable power for your home. A system from All Energy Solar works in Minnesota year-round because it runs on sunlight, not heat. So even in the dead of winter, you're generating electricity. And All Energy Solar helps you save with every rebate and incentive available. This is the moment to act. Waiting means risking with this tax credit and giving the upper hand to MAGA Republicans. So get your free consultation today at allenergysolar.com and take back your power.
Come on, you know it's true. Work is almost bearable when the Stephanie Miller Show is on. AM 950 KTNF, St. Louis Park, Minneapolis, St. Paul, the progressive voice of Minnesota.
AP News, I'm Ben Thomas. Congressional Democrats have unveiled a bill aimed at bolstering free speech protections. It follows ABC's suspension of Jimmy Kimmel Live over the comedian's comments about the reaction to the death of Charlie Kirk. Sagar Magani reports that's a reflection of President Trump's growing power over the media landscape.
The president's forced settlements, litigation, and programming changes over content he does not like. In this case, ABC moved fast after 2 affiliate groups said they'd pull Kimmel's show over his suggestions Charlie Kirk's suspected killer may have been a pro-Trump Republican. The president's FCC chairman had warned the network and affiliates could face consequences if Kimmel was not punished. Asked what the suspension says about free speech,
Jimmy Kimmel is not a talented person. He had very bad ratings, and they should have fired him a long time ago. So, you can call that free speech or not.
that was in the UK. While at home, former President Obama said the Trump administration's taking cancel culture to a new and dangerous level. Kimmel was asked a month ago if he felt under attack for criticizing the president.
People love to laugh, and that's never going to change, and there's nothing anybody is ever going to be able to do about that.
Sagar Meghani, Washington.
President Trump's flying back to Washington from his state visit to the UK, where he expressed gratitude for the royal treatment he received. He and Prime Minister Keir Starmer signed a tech agreement, swapped praise, and largely sidestepped geopolitical issues. On the UK's intention to recognize the Palestinian state,
I have a disagreement with the prime minister on that score.
NVIDIA is investing $5 billion in Intel, saying the companies will work together on AI infrastructure and PCs. Intel stock had its best day since 1987, helping drive Wall Street to more records. The Dow rose 124 points or 0.3%. The S&P up 0.5%, the Nasdaq 0.9%, all three closing at new highs. This is AP News.
With Progressive's Name Your Price tool, you get coverage options based on how much you want to pay for car insurance. And then you decide how to spend the rest of your money because you're in charge. And right now, you're going to pay for groceries. But you decide what groceries. Just keep in mind you're running out of dishwashing soap. But you decide if you're going to buy that soap. Just those dishes won't clean themselves, will they? Remember, with Progressive's Name Your Price tool, we'll help you find coverage at a fair price. And then you're in charge. Progressive Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, not available in all states. Price and coverage match limited by state law.
No big deal, but you've been earning Kohl's Cash for 20 years. That's 2 decades of checkout wins. To celebrate, enter our month-long sweepstakes for a chance to win $200 in Kohl's Cash. Plus, save on fall faves during the Customer Appreciation Event now. Yep, 2 decades of Kohl's Cash is a big deal. Shop Kohl's and brag accordingly. Coupon ends September 21st. Select styles. Some exclusions apply. Sweepstakes ends September 30th, 2025. No purchase necessary. 20 winners per day. Limit 1 prize per person for entire sweepstakes. See Kohls.com for official rules and details.
Get ready for the music event of the season. Powderhorn Porch Fest returns Saturday, September 20th, 4 to 10 p.m. for another legendary evening of 13 epic performances across 3 uniquely Powderhorn Porch stages featuring genres from hip-hop, R&B, surf punk, Latin folk, and more. Powderhorn Porch Fest spans 2 blocks on 17th Avenue South between 32nd and 34th Street. KRSM will be spinning beats with the diverse sounds of the South Side all night long. Treat yourself to Minneapolis' favorite food trucks, then grab a refreshing cold drink at the Beer Garden. The festival's family-friendly by day with activities for kids and an unforgettable celebration for adults after dark. Best of all, Powderhorn Porch Fest is free to attend with proceeds supporting the community programs of Powderhorn Park Neighborhood Association. Don't miss out on this one-of-a-kind music and community celebration. Powderhorn Porch Fest, September 20th, 4 to 10 p.m. Details at ppna.org/porchfest.
Turn to Auto Technical with your vehicle donation. Even though Auto Technical is a small nonprofit, we have helped more families with transportation than any organization in Minnesota. Since '94, we have reconditioned donated vehicles so they have a higher tax benefit. Call Richard at 612-919-5526, 612-919-5526, or autotech.org.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly sunny skies today with a high near 80. Tonight, showers and storms with a low near 65. And Friday, more rain with a high around 71. Unleash your cravings at Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Dive into a world of flavor with their signature Philly steak, tantalizing turkey bacon avocado, and an array of mouth-watering options like crispy chicken and fish. Pair it perfectly with freshly fried fries or golden onion rings. Unforgettable sandwiches. That's Maverick's Real Roast Beef in Roseville.
Portions of the following program may be pre-recorded.
Hour number 2 of the show here on your Thursday. Good to be with you. Has the FCC yanked our license yet, Brett?
Not yet. We are still broadcasting for now.
Well, for now. It could be a surprise. I did call the FCC chairman a hack. I think is how I said it exactly. It's hard to do that. But, you know, he knows I'm saying that in jest, right? We should mention that all of our shows are podcastable in case the Dark Lord brings the Death Star over us at any point, we are going to be podcastable, available in most of your podcast favorite locations.
And
correct?
of course, streaming as well.
We do like to stream. It's more of I do need to go talk to the doctor about that. But needless to say, is that joke?
I was going to say, you're just giving it more ammunition.
It's just I can't be. How dare you upset the bathroom industry of this country, Mr. McNeil? How dare you? So can we?
It's dangerous rhetoric.
Have a clock here. Let us know if they've sent in the Marines or something like that to take down the radio station with the FCC. If that happens while we're on the air, because I got to burn an interview here. I don't know if they're going to allow me to finish it. Hopefully they do, because reasons. But we don't know in this day and age. They just seem to have some Trump personal axes to grind. So we'll have to see that. I got a lot of other things to get to today. Now, as I say that, my next guest has nothing to do with my jokes or anything like that. I just want to separate this out because this is actually, for me, one of my favorite authors ever. Larry Millett. I have had him on all the time. I have him on a lot because I'm just a huge fan of his work. He's the author of 10 mysteries that feature Sherlock Holmes and St. Paul detective Shadwell Rafferty, including the collection of Mysterious Tales of Old St. Paul. And his nonfiction works includes Once There Were Castles and Minnesota Modern, winner of the Minnesota Book Award from the University of Minnesota Press. I will mention that not only is his mystery books sensational, are absolutely fantastic, but also his architecture books are just as, if to a point, might even be better. They are just brilliant and wonderful, and he knows the history of architecture in this town, and he's always a delight to talk with. He's got a brand new book out, Mysterious Tales of Old Minneapolis. Larry Millett is kind enough to take some time to talk about the new book. Hi, Larry.
Hey, how are you doing?
I'm doing well. I know you're not the biggest fan of me praising you as much, but God, I do love this, and I got this book in the mail, and thanks to Heather over there at the press for getting this to me. I got this in the mail, and I'm like, oh yeah, because I'm not only going to interview you now about this because the book comes out here in October, correct?
Late October, early November, right? Yep.
Yeah. And I'll mention there's going to be an event you're going to be doing in November. I'll get to that a little bit later on.
Yep.
But I'm going to have you on. I'm definitely having you back again to talk more about this and book and anything else you want to talk about for the holidays for sure, because you're always such a great person to talk with. You had mentioned when we had you on the air and we were talking about Mysterious Tales of Old St. Paul, you had mentioned, I'm not quite done yet. I've got this book coming out. And you were starting to work on it. Once again, how do you come across your process of, I still have stories to tell?
Well, it's just kind of stuff that's floating around in your head, and you kind of are thinking, maybe there's a good story there, or maybe this might be interesting. Maybe this character might come back for something, whatever. That happens. Right now, it so happens I'm actually working on another history book that fell into my lap. I'm doing a history of the James J. Hill House in St. Paul.
Wow.
For the Minnesota Historical Society Press. So that is my current project. But I was starting to write some more Sherlocks, and I had one more novella done, and then this other project fell in place. So staying busy in my old age, let's put it that way.
well, you are. And by the way, of course, you get that book done, you come back here. You always have. I would love to talk about when the James J. Hill book comes out. So you had mentioned this the last time. This is why I was kind of so eager about this. One of your stories includes a real world person, Oscar Wilde. And,
yes, it is.
and Oscar Wilde is involved. I'm going to read this. Let me pull it up here and read this correctly here. In a wild night at the Nicollet House, Oscar Wilde, in the midst of his 1882 North American tour and spouting witticisms as only he can, teams with a longtime house detective at the Nicollet House Hotel to search for the murderer of a hotel bell captain found dead in his room. Okay, you've got me hooked. All right, you wrote Sherlock Holmes, which to a point, even though a fictional character, such a beloved and renowned character, it's almost like real. But talk a little bit about approaching Oscar Wilde himself, the actual writer, and doing and trying to create a mystery around him.
Well, you know, he's such a fascinating individual, and in 1882, when he was on this national tour of his that took him all across the country, he wasn't yet really a famous writer, but he had become kind of a well-known figure for his views on aesthetics and other topics, and he became, I think, sort of the first person, one of the first people who was a celebrity for the sake of being a celebrity at that stage. He just was sort of he was like the Kardashians, I guess you could say. And he became a celebrity, and because of his appearance, his manner, everything else. And so they sent him on this big cross-country expedition to lecture to the unwashed masses about you know, all of his topics, even down to what type of wallpaper might be best for your house. It was pretty funny, but I just think he would have been very entertaining if given the chance. And I thought because of his just his overall intelligence and his way of looking at things, he might make a good detective if the need came to be. But more importantly, I like the opportunity to write, you know, I hope are some witty things that are at least somewhere in the vicinity of his wit. So he just seemed like somebody I would have fun playing with, and I really did. I mean, the story just one of those stories that just kind of wrote itself. I don't know how else to put it, but it just the material just seemed right to me. I felt that I had a good take on it. I had a good take on Oscar, and I just flew through it, and I think managed to get a pretty good mystery out of it as well as that.
Well, okay, so you know, and I academics, you know, people that are into academics and stuff like that, I respect, especially when you talk about some of these people who are the iconic writers of this time. I'm in the process of reading the Mark Twain book right now. You kind of get into that, and you kind of you can appreciate people that dive deep into a specific individual like this. For you, I mean, obviously there's all of his writings and stuff like this, and especially focusing on the time you're dealing with, but was there a special book, a library, was there a family society that is out there that you kind of worked with to kind of get an even more in-depth idea of Oscar Wilde at the time?
Well, there's a lot of secondary literature about him, biographies and other things, and so I was able to he took in 1882. There's a site online that has the complete tour information, of course, and where he stopped and a little bit about his speeches, et cetera, et cetera. So I was able to tap into that, tap into some of his writings, particularly The Bell of the Reading Jail, which is, I think, his great poem, and use that to build a story, and think of him as just, I like the fact he was very young. He was just in his 20s and kind of starting out in the world. He had made this little reputation, and now he's suddenly touring the United States backed by the same company that was putting on D'Oyly Carte, that was putting on the Gilbert and Sullivan plays around the country, and he kind of coincided with that. So he was just kind of sent out to see if they can make some money on the tour, and apparently they did.
So okay, obviously you had the tour information. How much of this is okay? This is the original site. This was where he was.
Right.
I mean, obviously you're a stickler for the history details. I'm not going to question. I'm not going to question anything you say on that. You are a stickler on the history details. But were you able to kind of encompass the actual real world facts of his trip to Minneapolis in regards to the story?
Yep. He stayed at the Nicollet House, which was then the big hotel in Minneapolis before the West Hotel was built a few years later, right down in Washington, Hennepin and Nicollet there. And he spoke right across the street at the old Academy of Music, a building that had opened some years earlier and burned down 2 years after he spoke there. So the basic armature of facts is pretty open, and having read enough of descriptions of him in biographies and whatnot, I felt, okay, I have a pretty good idea what he looks like, how he talks. Let's just see if we can have some fun building a story. And I wanted to do it because he was only there one night before he moved on to St. Paul, and then further west. I wanted to do a mystery that would take place within the span of a very brief time, basically 24 hours while he's there. So it's a pretty tightly compacted mystery, but I think it's a good story, and you get a chance just to listen to Oscar, be Oscar.
Well, and by the way, and one of the things I do love about that time is back when they had to take the trip from Minneapolis to St. Paul. And that was I'm traveling across town, guys.
Yeah. The big trip. Yeah, and and then the other key to that story was getting the right narrator, and so I tried to get a narrator who was kind of a foil for Oscar, who viewed him as as kind of this strange but very interesting man, and have a little fun with that interplay between those two as well. So I think that adds kind of to some of the fun of the story.
One of the things I do love about your writing, and once again, Larry Millett joining us, and just go pick up every Larry Millett book. I love Larry Millett. You'll like good mysteries. And by the way, it was interesting when we went over to Mousetrap over at the Guthrie, I got a chance to talk to some of the actors about this, and they just said, yeah, the audiences are eating this stuff up now. I mean, whether it's, the TV or the movies that, the Knives Out or this, but these are the things that people like. And if you like these kind of mysteries, Larry's books are fantastic. Your style, I like how your style goes, because you do these great history mysteries that are there where the history itself is a character within the book, absolutely, but as well also, and this goes back to something you and I have talked about with Edgar Allan Poe. It's like it comes down to the mystery. You got to have a good mystery in there, and it sounds like these other two stories in this book, Murder at the Falls and The Death Committee, it sounds like, both those, you're back into those styles again, which you have kind of leaned into over your career in writing. Yeah, and they're definitely traditional whodunit type of mysteries, with no Sherlock, no Rafferty. These are independent stories in two of them, the other two stories, women serving as the detectives. And in the first story, Murder at the Falls, which takes place in 1872 at St. Anthony Falls, the detective in that story, a woman named Sophia Westerly, is based very, very much on my great-great-grandmother, who, like her, was in the famous Selkirk colony up in Winnipeg, came over in 1821 as a 10-year-old, and out in the middle of the great Canadian prairies, and somehow survived it and ended up moving down to Wisconsin to work her husband to work in the lead mines. And I took a lot of her story, which I had written about in a family history that I was working on, and incorporated into the background for that story. That's the first time I've actually been able to do that. I knew enough about her life to make her her story kind of the backstory anyway, the story that goes in Murder at the Falls. Mm-hmm. And then, and by the way, I mean, if you read about that, because didn't a lot of those people from Selkirk end up in St. Paul at some point too? Yeah, a lot of them came down here. Yeah, that was. They got flooded out. Believe it or not, hard to believe, right? Yeah, that was flooded out. Yeah. That was the tougher way around. They did the tough version of the trip. They could have come in from Chicago, but they decided to go the long way. Talk a little bit about the Death Committee on that one too. The working in this, I think that. The premise of this, a champion lawyer of the working class convinced his own murder is imminent, arranges for these three citizens to investigate his death with a $10,000 reward. I mean, my gosh, man, that is just mystery gold there. Well done on coming with that. Yeah, it's kind of fun. I thought it would be just sort of interesting. And then, of course, everything gets more complicated as you go along, and you learn various things about how this committee was actually set up, et cetera, et cetera. And it makes for a little bit of a drawing room mystery in a way, and I think that's kind of fun. It's all three stories are written in kind of a little bit of an old-fashioned style. They're very straightforward, but with kind of the Victorian sentences and the idea, and a very very strong narrator. So they're fun. I really think the stories are fun to read, and if you like a little bit of history of the Twin Cities mixed in, then that's there for you too, especially in the story about St. Anthony Falls, which has a lot of the history and background of the falls and the milling district and all of that. You see, and that's one of the things I think I really love about your writing. And I'll give you another example, because I was just down in Chicago. Caleb Carr, The Devil in the White City. His great story there about the World's Fair that came through, and then the H.H. Holmes murderer that was out there.
It's actually Eric Larson who wrote that story. But Caleb Carr was he was
alienist.
the other one.
The
alienist.
That's right.
Yeah.
Thank you for correcting me on that. But both of them in the same vein. I mean, Caleb Carr was much more of a fictional story, but once again using historical figures. And The Devil in the White City, the one thing that I liked about that was you have to dive into the history. So if you are a history buff, you're going to love these. But if you like great mysteries, you're going to love these because they're so well done. And I think that is a lost art. And especially because, let's face it, there is so many people that like these. There's just some people that kind of punt on these. And I really appreciate when a writer takes the time and thinks through the process. You and I have talked about that before. It's not easy to do because you got to think the whole thing through and find any faults in your own story before you can get it on paper.
You hope anyway. there have been things that have occurred over the years in my books that people have pointed out may not, maybe a little bit of a hole there somewhere, but that happens. But yeah, you try to, keep the mystery tight, believable, draw it out of the characters themselves in terms of who they are and how they work and how they think, and that's kind of how you put it together and have hopefully a good basic idea, a good setup, a good pitch. If it were a movie, script, here's what it is, and once you can figure that out, then that's the germ, the seed of the story, and then you can build it from there.
I will mention that you are going to have a launch for this. It's in November, but it's coming up here. It's less than 2 months away. November 13th, 6 p.m. at Once Upon a Crime bookstore in Minneapolis. That is where the launch is going to be. The book is available. It's going to be, you said it right now, it's looking like late October, early November.
Yeah, that's what they're saying. And, it's just whenever it gets back from the printers and they get it circulated, distributors. So, but yeah, I would say certainly by November 1st, I would think it should be available.
I'm going to ask the question just because I got you here. I want to ask you this. So, of all this stuff, as I mentioned, mysteries are popular, with the Knives Out and stuff like this. Is there one right now that you are watching that you're, as a man who writes mysteries, you're like, okay, this is good?
Oh boy. Not at the moment. I tend to be a lover of the classic movies.
Yeah.
and both my wife and I love film noir, so we watch a lot of those, which are often quite tightly constructed mysteries in their own way. And among modern writers, there's just a number of people out there who are really good. But I don't read actually as many mysteries as I used to because I'm too busy doing other things. A lot of my reading these days is, now particularly is for learning historical facts and figures and figuring things out. And really for most of my mystery novels, it's the same thing. A lot of my research and planning, when I was younger, I read a million mystery novels in part to learn how to write them. That's one way you learn how to write a mystery novel. And so I read Acres of Agatha Christie, and that's one Agatha Christie I still reread.
Oh yeah,
I've got an old selection of paperbacks from the 1960s.
Wow.
I think the 50-cent paperbacks, and every once in a while I'll just pick one down that I might have read 30 years ago and say, yeah, let's read that. Let's see what Agatha is up to in the way of tricks. And she's always very clever.
Well, I will say too, before and first of all, Agatha Christie, my wife loves Agatha Christie. She reads them all the time. I have actually reread a few of your earlier Sherlock Holmes books, The Red Demon and the Ice Palace Murders.
Palace Murders, yeah.
I've reread both of them, and I mean they do hold up as well. I mean, that's a great book. If you can read it 20 years later or 10 years later or 5 years later, you can go back and reread it again. Then, you got quality there, and you're just a gem, man. I just one of the jewels in this town, and I just love your books. I love all, like I said, the history of it, the mysteries. But I mean, anytime you have a book, you're always welcome on the show because I just love chatting with you because you are so good at what you do.
Well, thank you. I enjoy chatting with you too.
Larry Millett. Once again, the book, Mysterious Tales of Old Minneapolis. The book will be out late October, early November. And once again, they are going to be having a launch event November 13th, 6 p.m. at Once Upon a Crime bookstore in Minneapolis. Go get this book, and we'll talk to you, Larry. We'll have you back over the holidays, okay?
Okay, great. Good to talk to you as always. And keep at it, and keep keep those forces that you were talking about who might want to shut your show down. Keep them at bay.
I will keep them at bay. Thank you very much, Larry. I appreciate it. Larry Millett, let's take a break. Come on back. It is the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday.
Twin Cities Con returns to the Minneapolis Convention Center for their 5th year, November 7th through the 9th. Twin Cities Con is a celebration of comics, toys, TV, film, art, cosplay, games, and all things nerdy. There's nothing like Twin Cities Con. It's also a family-friendly event where you can meet your favorite celebrities, browse the vendor hall and artist alley for the coolest merch, watch celebrity Q&As, and even more. Twin Cities Con is bigger and better than before. Come see from the Star Wars universe Ahmad Best, Rosario Dawson, and Giancarlo Esposito, Brendan Fraser, and the cast of The Mummy, WWE Wrestling Hall of Famers Sting and Mick Foley, and the voice actors from the hit Disney series Phineas and Ferb, plus more guests to be announced. 3 days of action-packed fun in the heart of Minneapolis at the Minneapolis Convention Center. Tickets start at $50. Kids' tickets are just $10 for the entire weekend. VIP tickets also available, including a 3-day weekend pass, plus some really cool VIP perks. More guests will be announced. Buy your tickets and get more information at TwinCitiesCon.com.
Hi, this is Laura with Food Freedom Radio, and I invite you to discover 2 local grocery stores with a global fare. Market Fresh, south of Rosedale, carries fresh vegetables, quality meats, seafood, and a wide variety of grocery staples, all in a welcoming store. Shanghai Wholesale Market is in the St. Paul Midway area, and it's a food warehouse open to the public. Shanghai Wholesale carries more than 500 types of noodles. And frankly, it's time for Minnesotans to learn that pasta is a little bit more than spaghetti noodles and tuna casserole. There's sweet potato, bean, rice, fresh, frozen, rye. It's a paradise for those seeking gluten-free pasta. Also, both Market Fresh and Shanghai Wholesale Market seek to buy local, so you can look for local quail eggs, unique cheeses, and Minnesota-made tofu. Open the door to food abundance. Discover Market Fresh, your local Asian food store just south of Rosedale, and Shanghai Wholesale Market, your local international food warehouse north of Menards in the St. Paul Midway area.
Overwhelmed trying to make sense of Medicare? As a licensed advisor, I can help you determine your healthcare needs and evaluate your options. I'm Harvey Pearl of Pearl & Company, and I want you to have the peace of mind knowing you have the best coverage available. You deserve an advocate you can trust and coverage you can rely on. And there's no fee, ever. Annual enrollment is October 15th through December 7th. Call me now at 651-303-8889 so we can strategize together.
Hey, Francois, where are we going and why do you have so many canvas bags?
Salut Laura, on y va chez Nicolette's Macarons.
Oh, I've never been to Nicolette's store. They're just off Highway 169 and 36th in Plymouth.
Oui, ils ont 16 saveurs de macarons là.
They have 16 flavors of macaroons at the store. That's why you have so many canvas bags. I love how Nicolette supports small food entrepreneurs. Let's hurry. They're open afternoons, Wednesday through Friday, and midday on Saturdays.
Nicolette, c'est génial. Allons-y.
Let's go.
Freaking Larry Millett, man. God, I love him. His books are fantastic. And I mean, it is my wheelhouse. Mysteries, crime stories in history and tied into it. Oh, God. Mysterious Tales of Old Minneapolis, Larry Millett. You can pre-order your book, by the way. Go to University of Minnesota Press. You can go get that over there. I got to tell you, Brett, okay, so today we had Ellie on. Ellie Krug joined me. It's always great to see her. I love her. We have Larry Millett on, which is, you see me over here geeking out. I mean, I'm at Fugelsang level of geeking out right now. And by the way, Fugelsang's going to be joining us probably next week to talk about his new book. Tonight I'm going to go see Nance, our good friend Nancy Nelson.
Over at Chanhassen?
Yeah, she's going to be over. I got Love Letters is over at Chanhassen Dinner Theater. And I am going to go over, and it's her and Don Shelby. And it plays today and then Saturday and Sunday, I believe it is. Today, Saturday, and Sunday over at Chanhassen Dinner Theater. But then also it looks like they're going to do another extension of this. At least I just went up to Chanhassen Dinner Theater's page here. They're going to be doing another run of this on February 4th to the 22nd next year with Nancy and Don Shelby. How cool is that? Oh, the last time I saw Don Shelby was over at Chanhassen Dinner Theater. So it's just an amazing guy too. So I'm looking forward to this. I get to go see them tonight. So Larry Millett, Don Shelby, Nancy Nelson, Ellie Krug, my goodness gracious. I'm brown shoes on a tux over here, man.
Good lineup. Absolutely.
952-946-6205. Jim wanted to chime in earlier. Jim is in Bloomington and wanted to chime in on the Jimmy Kimmel talk I had last hour. Welcome on in, Jim.
Hi. Thanks for having me. I was watching the news last night, Care 11.
Yeah.
And they had a brief mention about Jimmy Kimmel being suspended. Very matter of fact. And then they went right into a rally that was held at Eden Prairie about Charlie Kirk. And the whole thing really didn't sit well with me. I thought, wow, is that what your values are, Care 11? It just...
Well,
did you hear about that?
No, I did not. Hey, Jim, I appreciate the phone call. Here's what I'm going to say, and I've said this before. First of all, Charlie Kirk did not deserve to get shot. My goodness, and I've railed here consistently. Brett, you can attest to this like nobody else. How many times have I said no? I don't think we should be having this gun violence in this country. And common sense gun laws would be helpful to people, to everybody. Like when they had the shooting in Vegas at the country music concert, I guarantee you there were people from across the political spectrum who were shot. I didn't care who they voted for. I cared about them being human beings and not being gunned down by just trying to enjoy country music. And no one deserves to be shot. No one does. And it is tragic that he was shot. Now, Charlie Kirk is not somebody without controversy himself. He has said a lot of things which were pretty rough, pretty bad. Sometimes racist, a lot of misogynist. He said a lot of bad things. Doesn't mean he deserved to be shot in any capacity. Not at all. But when I talk about this kind of this moment of convincing people that the sky is purple, part of that is that they have to get people to ignore the things that Charlie Kirk has said in the past to turn him into what they want him to be. And once again, it is horrible he was shot. I think I have been incredibly clear on that. And if I wish we had more common sense gun laws, that would have probably saved him, prevented him from being shot like that. But that being said, he does have a history of saying things which are incredibly offensive at times. Incredibly offensive at times. And yeah, I mean, it's like I said, I mean, if these television stations that have basically said that Jimmy Kimmel went too far, even though Kimmel, as I just did this last hour, expressed that he didn't really say anything out of line, especially for the time when he said it. If you go back and basically want to turn this into something else, you've got to convince a lot of people of a certain narrative. And a lot of what is going on right now is about convincing people of a specific truth and a specific reality. It's unfortunate. It is very unfortunate. But you're seeing a lot of places, like I said, corporate media, at the end of the day, they have decided freedom of speech and freedom of the press, those things aren't important as much as corporate media executives' salaries, holiday bonuses, and stock options. Those are the most important things within any media empire today. And it shows. And it shows. You want to honor Charlie Kirk, knock yourself out. That's what you want to do. I'm going to say he doesn't deserve to be shot, but I also think that you have to look at all the things that he said when you want to look at his eventual legacy about who the man was, and not just weed out the things which become very uncomfortable when you bring that stuff up. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. We'll take a break, come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show right here on AM 950.
Crooners is a classic supper club with a wide range of entertainment. Make your reservations for a parade of international, national, and local artists in the main stage showroom, the intimate Dunsmore Jazz Room, or outdoors at the seasonal Belvedere Under the Stars space. Or enjoy Maggie's Piano Lounge. Enjoy 4-star food and drinks with first-class supper club service. What are you waiting for? Go to croonersmn.com for more information and schedule. That's croonersmn.com.
This year, the adventure is calling louder than ever before. Craft your own magic at the Wicked Wand Workshop. Race for glory at the Ninja Warrior Challenge. Or battle for honor at the Viking Invasion. Plus, enjoy classic favorites like live armored combat jousting or slay your hunger with tasty turkey legs. The Minnesota Renaissance Festival is back with new adventures. Get your tickets now at renaissancefest.com. Huzzah!
The independently owned Next Chapter Booksellers is the perfect destination for your next book. The friendly staff at Next Chapter Booksellers are great at making recommendations no matter your age or taste. Plus, they have frequent events including book readings and meet and greets with authors. And they sell more than just books. They have a wide variety of puzzles and games, too. So stop in and browse the store off Snelling and Grand in St. Paul. More at nextchapterbooksellers.com.
Get ready for the music event of the season. Powderhorn Porch Fest returns Saturday, September 20th, 4 to 10 p.m. for another legendary evening of 13 epic performances across 3 uniquely Powderhorn Porch stages featuring genres from hip-hop, R&B, surf punk, Latin folk, and more. Powderhorn Porch Fest spans 2 blocks on 17th Avenue South between 32nd and 34th Street. KRSM will be spinning beats with the diverse sounds of the South Side all night long. Treat yourself to Minneapolis' favorite food trucks, then grab a refreshing cold drink at the Beer Garden. The festival's family-friendly by day with activities for kids and an unforgettable celebration for adults after dark. Best of all, Powderhorn Porch Fest is free to attend with proceeds supporting the community programs of Powderhorn Park Neighborhood Association. Don't miss out on this one-of-a-kind music and community celebration. Powderhorn Porch Fest, September 20th, 4 to 10 p.m. Details at ppna.org/porchfest.
Would you let animals pick your insurance? Do you really need to experience mayhem to get the best rates? Or how about a celebrity quarterback or fake university saving you money? There's a lot of marketing stunts when it comes to insurance, but what you really need is someone looking out for you. Call Array Insurance, and they will work hard to find you the best insurance coverage and rates. So avoid gimmicks and call Cheryl at Array, 763-504-3067 or arrayinsurance.com. Array Insurance, working hard for you.
With your AM 950 weather, I'm Brett Johnson. Look for partly sunny skies today with a high near 80. Tonight, showers and storms with a low near 65. And Friday, more rain with a high around 71. Unleash your cravings at Maverick's Real Roast Beef. Dive into a world of flavor with their signature Philly steak, tantalizing turkey bacon avocado, and an array of mouth-watering options like crispy chicken and fish. Pair it perfectly with freshly fried fries or golden onion rings. Unforgettable sandwiches. That's Maverick's Real Roast Beef in Roseville.
This that pretty girl mantra, this that flaunt, you just touched down in LA. Pretty girls don't do drama.
It is the Matt McNeil Show. Are we still on the air? Has the FCC shut us down yet? Are we?
Not yet. We are still broadcasting.
For authoritarian takeover, they're sure taking their sweet time. Okay. Oh,
you quote, no one ever. Those authoritarians aren't moving fast enough.
Come on. TikTok, man. All you can do is laugh, because when you're looking at the fact that this government is actually trying to undo freedom of speech, that's all you can do is laugh. So, but do keep me up to date in case you get a call, in case that bald-headed twit comes into the station and I'm here to shut you down. It's your thing there, Yosemite Sam. I'm ready. It's, like I said, we're ready to go podcast tomorrow if we need to. We'll. Do I have to be here? Do I have to wear? Can I do it from home, pantsless, if I want to do a podcast?
We're not doing video. You can, yeah.
Well, I mean, just in pants. I mean, I got.
Oh, you're going like newscaster style, yeah.
Full Winnie the Pooh, man. I'm all over that action. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. Hey, and other things that are not me saying disturbing things, I want to take some time to go through the charges today that the feds have put forward here. Acting U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson, that basically federal prosecutors charged 8 people Thursday with wire fraud in connection with the investigation of the state's embattled housing stabilization program. They call the case a massive scheme to defraud program meant to provide housing services to vulnerable people. I'm going to just say this. This is one thing that is just really disturbing about our time and age. There are people that are looking at every government program and asking the question, how can I steal from it? And that's just that. That's clearly what is going on. How can I steal for this program? Now, we have had multiple discussions on this show about the need for the Democrats that pass these bills. I mean, we can have a discussion about the merits of these things. And I think at the end of the day, when these bills get passed, when these programs get put into place, we talked about this with Jolie Blaha when we had her on a few days ago, that these are good programs. There's a great idea, but you have to have some freaking level of oversight. This idea of we don't need to question anybody. That's just, I mean, clearly there are people that the second you put down forward a program that, you know, that they're going to try to take advantage of it and steal money from the system. So you have to, you know, yeah. The program was designed to provide housing services to vulnerable people. In July, federal investigators searched 5 locations after widespread complaints about the program that one agent wrote in a warrant was extremely vulnerable to fraud, because you guys all had your "we did it" moment and you never thought about, should we monitor it? And you need to be monitoring these things. I mean, if the legislative irresponsibility, if you guys put forward any other program designed to help the poor without effective oversight of said program, is completely on you. And it takes just a few bucks in that program and a little bit of foresight to say, hey, we're just going to make sure anyone that applies for this program actually qualifies for this program, and do follow-ups on all of these applications within a month. I don't think it's necessarily you're asking too much. And I'm just going to go through the live updates they did this morning. First of all, acting U.S. Attorney Joe Thompson said the housing stabilization services is riddled with fraud. We were the first state in the nation to make Medicaid benefit available. At the time, the program was estimated to cost approximately $2.6 million a year. It quickly exploded. He said it grew to more than $100 million a year in Medicaid billing in just a few years. Hundreds of companies enrolled in the program. And by the way, it should be noted that the vast majority of this money went into probably a handful of people's pockets and did not actually go help anybody. And the crime is that there are probably people out there who definitely needed this program, but because there are people out there whose first job is to basically rip people off, well, that's how it works. Many of these companies operated out of dilapidated forefronts or rundown office buildings that were full of other fraudulent healthcare companies, including the Gigs Midway building in St. Paul. I actually have a friend that works, and he said, yeah, some of these things, it's clear from you drive past, you know that there's nothing legal going on in those buildings. 8 defendants are being charged in the fraud scheme. Thompson announced the defendants, he said, identified vulnerable people, many of whom were released from drug or alcohol rehabilitation services. They signed them up to receive housing stabilization services to purportedly help them find stable housing, but then billed Medicaid for services they did not actually provide. Thompson said the case is the first round of indictments in the case. Unlike similar cases such as Feeding Our Future, we're going to charge this case in waves as we develop evidence. Thompson said the system of trust that underpinned the state's services no longer works, and the level of fraud is staggering. These programs have been abused over to the point where the fraud has overtaken the legitimate services. I'm not going to deny that. When you get to the amount of money that was going out in this program, yeah. We can and will prosecute many of these individuals as we have them. Thompson said there is significant overlap between the housing stabilization case and the Feeding Our Future case. Most of these healthcare fraud investigations essentially grew out of Feeding Our Future investigations, through which we bank records routinely. Yeah, they have this is the deal. This is what they're doing. They're looking for the next program they can go bilk. I mean, we talked about this with the ghost students at colleges. They're doing that now, where they're going out there and applying to go to college under fake, names and trying to get a whole bunch of money. And for the most part, they're catching them. But a few times it's gotten through and people are taking $20,000, $30,000 worth of federal aid. Thompson referred to the investigation into the state program as an iceberg. We keep digging. You see more and more of this. The FBI pointed out a search warrants filed in July that 22 housing stabilization providers working from a single building in St. Paul billed the state more than $8 million between January and May. The Griggs Midway building, an imposing structure along University Avenue, housed Brilliant Mind Services, one of the businesses searched in July. At the time, the DHS said it had opened approximately 40 investigations of providers associated with the building and stopped payments everywhere we'd seen evidence of fraud. Thompson said Minnesota is seeing a systemic and wholesale attack on the state government programs. That is a fact. That is a fact. And like I said, Democrats, I get it. You're trying to help people, but you give yourself that warm, cozy little hug, and you don't ask yourself, are there a lot of scumballs out there that are going to try to take advantage of this program? And this is not, we had the Feeding Our Future. We had, what was the tax rebate thing that could be used. And these guys were taking these women and forcing them to give them their social security numbers and then taking their tax money. Just a lot of crime going on in there. These programs aren't designed to have hundreds and even thousands of bagged actors all try to defraud them on day one, but that's the system now. Most of these cases, unlike a lot of Medicare fraud cases nationally, just are overbilling. These are often just purely fictitious companies solely created to defraud the system. And, you have to, and you guys are just not putting the money in to say, send somebody over to Bob's Health Hut to make sure Bob's Health Hut is actually an operating business. Nope, there was an empty storefront and no one was there, and we've been over there 3 times. We'll deny the application. Minnesota officials have cut off payments to 115 providers of housing stabilization services at this point. In 2024, providers billed more than $100 million for the services. Here are the 8 defendants from Brilliant Mind Services: Mokhtar Hassan Aden, Mustafa Daib Ali, Khalid Ahmed Daib, and Mohammed as well. From Falad Care, Christopher Falad and Emmanuel Falad. From Leo Holmes Human Services, Assad Adow, and from Liberty Plus, Anwar Ahmed Adow, that have all been arrested or all been defendants. They've been charged. Are the defendants? They're the defendants. They're labeled as the defendants in the case. The Housing Stabilization Services Program launched in 2020 as a groundbreaking program using federal Medicaid funds to help address housing insecurity. It's meant to help people with disabilities find and maintain stable housing, but the cost of the program and the number of enrollees and providers quickly spiraled. More than 1,700 companies are listed in the state directory last year. Providers billed the state for more than $100 million in services. Federal prosecutors say that before the Housing Stability Services Program was launched, it was predicted to cost about $2.6 million annually. In 2020 alone, it paid out more than $21 million. That was followed by $42 million, $74 million in 2023, $104 million in 2024, and $61 so far in the first half of 2025. People are just bilking the system. The vast majority of that money is not going to help people. It's going to buy people's cars and clothing and houses. That's what it is. The Department of Human Services Acting Commissioner Shireen Gandhi said that the charges announced would serve as a warning to fraudsters. The charges announced today are a result. Now, I will say this. I think I'm glad the feds are in on this for this reason, is because I think the system that's in place for state monitoring doesn't allow for the streamlined nature that a federal investigation can do. And it kind of, you kind of run into, go back to the Feeding Our Future. Pretty much the Department of Education, Department of Health and Human Services, the Attorney General, all were going to a court and saying, for God's sakes, there's clearly some fraud here. And the judge says, well, no, you still have to pay them. That can kind of, and the federal government can kind of clean and streamline that process. And speaking of the Attorney General, Keith Ellison said in a statement that today's indictments are a step in the right direction. I hope this sends a message to all those who would advocate for Minnesotans' generosity to desire to keep those in need. My office gladly partnered with federal law enforcement in these investigations. that led to these indictments by interviewing key witnesses, executing search warrants, and analyzing data and more. So it sounds like the Attorney General's office was involved in this whole process at the same time. So that's good news there. But no, I am for helping people. And I want to be, Democrats, you've got to be careful, because I can sit there and say, see, this is a simple little program, $2.6 million. That's not a lot of money. But then put a cap on that. If that's what you're expected to be, well, then that's the cap. And then when someone applies for the money, make sure it's a legitimate business that actually is there. This is simple to do. And for some reason, I think that there are times where the Democrats feel as if oversight means we're not going to look like we're open-minded. No, oversight is protecting the taxpayer dollars. I think at this point, even if you do think that, it's clear that you can't put programs like this out there without these basic checks in place, or else the system is going to just absolutely get abused. Because the saddest part of our society is there's a crap ton of horrible individuals who are just looking to rip off taxpayer dollars and will use the most vulnerable people to jam as much money in their own pockets. Those are the real villains in this whole situation. 952-946-6205. 952-946-6205. We'll take a break, come back. It's the Matt McNeil Show here on your Thursday.
Hey, it's Patrick for Zero Res. It's the start of our favorite season in Minnesota, football season. With all the hype and action this season brings, we know things can get loud and messy quick. Before you invite your friends and family over to watch the big game, you better call my cleaning heroes at Zero Res to clean up all of those fumble moments in your home. And as always, you can score a guaranteed touchdown with great savings from Zero Res this month. Carpet, tile, rugs, upholstery, every surface in your home can be Zero Resified. And this month you can get 3 rooms of carpet clean starting at just $129, plus $75 off an air duct cleaning. And don't forget about your dryer vent, too. Having Zero Res over will be a big victory for your home. You'll always come away a winner, even if the guys in the purple or the maroon don't. Call 952-ZERO-RES or go to ZeroResMinnesota.com and ask for the AM 950 special. Backward or forward spells the same. Zero Res.
At Schroman Law, we provide more than just legal documents. We walk alongside our clients to ensure their wishes and legacies are being honored with every choice. And we do this while recognizing that this process can be emotional and weighty. Our team includes attorneys, as well as a grief coach and a published writer ready to assist with legacy letters and extra wishes to go alongside your healthcare directive. Contact us today to learn more at schromenlaw.com. That's SCHROMEN law.com.
Hi, I'm Rachel Shamblat. My dad is Dr. Scott Shamblat from Shamblat Family Dentistry. A lot of people are afraid of the dentist, but you don't have to be. My dad makes going to the dentist comfortable and even fun. He won't be mad if you haven't seen a dentist in a long time. He just wants to take care of you and your teeth. If you don't see my dad, please see another dentist. Take care of your teeth because they're the only ones you get.
Shamblat Family Dentistry in Hopkins and St. Paul. Find them online at shamblatfamilydentistry.com or call 1-800-FIX-MY-TEETH.
Overwhelmed trying to make sense of Medicare? As a licensed advisor, I can help you determine your healthcare needs and evaluate your options. I'm Harvey Pearl of Pearl & Company, and I want you to have the peace of mind knowing you have the best coverage available. You deserve an advocate you can trust and coverage you can rely on. And there's no fee, ever. Annual enrollment is October 15th through December 7th. Find me at pearlsofwisdom.com. That's PERLES of wisdom.com. So we can strategize together.
I should test this FCC thing. All right, ready? Booger. There you go. There's a throwback. It is the Matt McNeil Show. Yeah, I don't. If you haven't figured out, I don't really have a lot of patience for far right people who pretend to be pearl clutching, couch fading kind of people. You know, I don't have much patience for that. We'll have to see what the FCC does with us. Will we be back tomorrow? Ooh, it's a mystery. 952-946-6205, 952-946-6205. I'm thinking about maybe going to get high before I go see Love Letters over at the Chanhassen Dinner Theater. No, not really. I will say it's becoming easier. Cannabis dispensaries are finally opening up across Minnesota 2 years after recreational marijuana was legalized. Legacy Cannabis opened the state's first non-tribal dispensary on Tuesday in downtown Duluth, selling flower grown by the White Earth Nation. The business, an extension of Legacy Glassworks, will bring in the dispensary to the Twin Cities location in the next few months. Hey. Adult use recreation sales are also beginning this week in existing dispensaries operating by a couple of medical cannabis providers. Green Goods started adult use sales on Tuesday at its locations in Blaine, Bloomington, Burnsville, Harmontown, Minneapolis, pardon me a second, Moorhead, Rochester, and Woodbury. No. Theater of the Mind. Rise is launching adult use sales on Wednesday on locations in Brooklyn Park, Eagan, Mankato, New Hope, and Wilmer. Wilmer? Okay. Arlen, I got an idea about something we can do tonight after we put the tractors to bed. Okay, knock yourself out, Wilmer. The company's 3 other dispensaries in Baxter, St. Cloud, and St. Paul expected to follow soon. Minnesota's the medicinal marijuana program was created in 2014. Stated recreational marijuana was legalized for adults 21 over in 2023, but its rollout faced delays due to the hiccups throughout the process. The state's first cannabis business license was awarded in June to a cannabis cultivator. Until now, only a handful of dispensaries on tribal lands have been able to sell recreational marijuana products, with tribes growing their own flower. Prairie Island Indian Community's dispensary in Welch Island, Pezzi, next to the Treasure Island Resort and Casino, previously was the closest legal pot shop in the Twin Cities. I think the Native American tribes should have first call on all of this, frankly, but that's just me. Tribes are now getting permission from the state to open dispensaries outside of tribal lands. The White Earth Band of Chippewa recently opened dispensaries in Moorhead, St. Cloud, and Mille Lacs Band of Ojibwe will follow soon in Hinckley and Onamia. So there you go. You're going to be stopped by Toby's up in Hinckley, man. Now you're going to get the munchies. Hey, I want another 5 carbo rolls. That's called smart business marketing right there.
Put a restaurant next to a dispensary. That's not a bad idea.
Put a donut shop next to
probably a better idea.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah, on demand and quick. Yeah, where you could just
with like fans blowing the wind, the donut vapors out towards the. It's like, oh, hey, it's gonna be like one of those cartoons where they follow the smoke line down to where the food's being cooked. Oh, why not? More recreational dispensaries are expected to open as newly licensed cannabis cultivators start contributing to the statewide supply. Minnesota Star Tribune has a map. I'll make sure I post that a little bit later on. So there you go. No, I will not go see Love Letters with Nancy Nelson and Don Shelby over at the Chanhassen Dinner Theater High tonight. I will not. I will not do that. Boy, can I have some more dessert? No, I am not doing that. I'm actually going to go and see that. I'm looking forward to going and seeing that. Love Letters is playing tonight, I think Saturday and Sunday over at Chan. Go check that out, and they're back again in February. Native Roots Radio is up next. Have a good one. We are back tomorrow. Until then, see ya.
The Brave New Workshop is a Minneapolis tradition and the nation's longest-running comedy theater, finding ways to make people laugh about things that